Here we go. We've got Sue and Michelle from Ron Joyce Children's Health Center, Community Education Service, with us tonight, talking about helping my child or youth with organization and focus. Great to have you both with us tonight. We know that this is definitely a topic that's affecting our kids in school and at home. At least it is at my house. So we're very happy to have you here. And I'm going to hand things over to you so that you guys can get right into it.
Okay, so first of all, what is an organized person? And I found this online. They write things down, they have routines, they know how to ask for help, they've got a to-do list that stays current, they purge clutter, they have a place for everything, they're optimistic and goal-orientated, they don't put things off until later, and they come prepared. They know how they need to de-stress, and they do so. So how many of those things can you check off for yourself? And how many of those things can you check off for your children? Children learn what they live, and some children need more time, more organization, and more follow through. So if we're having a hard time as the parent, or if the household has got some chaos going on, if the child is already struggling, then it's just going to perpetuate it. It's going to make it worse. And again, these things, you don't have to have all of them, but you need to start with a few. And if you can get started with a few and set yourself up for success, set the household up for success, and also for your child. How will this look like for everybody will be a little bit different, but this just gives you an idea of the things that you're looking for and wondering, is this happening in our home? Is this happening for me? And does my child have these abilities and skills? Or do we have to teach this, put some time aside, and get organized in a way that's going to work for them?
One of the important things on this list, I think, that jumps out for me is number 3. Do they know how to ask for help? A lot of kids will really push things aside and struggle, as do we as adults as well. Um, and we just kind of muddle through and we try and push through, and we kind of get lost in our own chaos sometimes and our own, sort of patterns of just struggling along. And it's really about teaching ourselves as well as our children, how do we approach other people when we are feeling like we're kind of suffocating or buried and not sure how to reach out. So it is a skill to actually learn how to ask for help and how to reach out to others, and who would be the best person sometimes to ask for help, because children may not necessarily know who the right person would be. Is it my teacher? Is it a co-student, somebody in my classroom? Is it a friend, an aunt and uncle? Is it a coach? Who might be that best person for what the problem is or the challenge that I'm faced with? So helping them to sort of sift through all of that and determine how to approach the problem and how can I reach out and ask for help is a really big skill, and that may help with some of the other things on the list as well.
So do we have the poll ready?
Yes, I am going to just pop that out. Okay, folks, you're just going to see a slight switch on the screen, and there'll be a polling box there, and you can just check all the things that apply um, to your family or child. Now, that is covering a little bit of the slide. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
It's the
fine.
same list.
Yes, it's the same list, so you can bring it right up if you want.
Okay. Sorry to move it while people are clicking.
Follow through is the biggest one. They're all pretty common responses that we've seen right across a lot of our workshops, eh, Michelle?
Yeah, the follow through, the organization.
The transitions are a big one, yeah, for sure.
Okay, has everybody answered? Move on.
So
Looks
I think so. Well, certainly you can see that you're not alone by doing that poll and recognizing that, your struggles are the same as others and that, and as Michelle and I were saying, like these are very, very common challenges that parents are facing. And this is why we have workshops like this one, and we have other workshops as well that kind of target in on just working on transitions and working on emotions separately. And that's why we try to target some of those things individually. So you may want to explore what some of our other classes are to maybe help focus on some of those other things specifically. That was great.
Okay, so what is getting in the way? We're going to be talking a little bit about executive functioning. Executive functioning are those things that help us with task initiation, time management, emotional control. So those are the things that your children are struggling with. So a lot of times we feel like they should just get this, but it's actually something that they're struggling with and they don't have that skill. So it's really tough for them to follow through with something or to get something started because that executive function is actually struggling. So they need more support, more reminders, more checklists, more expectations, and a lot more work in the beginning. But what you're doing is you're setting them up for success, and then they will have the tools to move forward in their life. So we've got that the effort. Are they're regulating, they're alert, they've got sustained effort, their speed of doing things. I mean, some children, they're just a lot slower. Maybe they can't even hold their pencil that well. So they sometimes get frustrated because these things that we just take for granted that they're doing, they're actually struggling with. Then there's that focus, sustaining focus, being able to shift attention, going to the next task. I mean, depending on where they're sitting, if they're doing virtual school, where are they sitting? Are they somewhere close to a window? Or are they at the kitchen table and then things are going on around them and they're already struggling to focus and then they've got all this stuff going on? Same thing in a classroom. Are they sitting by the window? Are they sitting by the door? Are they sitting beside their best friend? And those things are like, those squirrel moments where we see something and then we get frustrated with them, but they already struggle with focus. Then we've got the activation. Are they organized? Can they prioritize? Are they able to prioritize? And, when they wake up in the morning, are they allowed to watch TV first or do they have to get ready? And if they're ready on time and they have a checklist and they know what the expectation is, then maybe if there's enough time, they can watch TV. So we want to set them up. Then there's that self-regulation, the action, monitoring themselves, being aware of how they affect other people. And the memory, utilizing working memories. Some children struggle with working memories. So what they've just done, they kind of forget. Some people say even because the working memory is so low that they're reading with their child, they help correct a word, and by the time they get to the end of the sentence, they've forgotten how to say that word, right? And then emotion, they're managing their frustration. How are they dealing with their emotion, especially when they get easily frustrated or they're having a hard time regulating themselves, and then they've got distractions and they're getting in trouble. So this just kind of spins and spins. So what we want to do is look at each one individually and say, does my child have this skill? How do we set them up for success? And how do we teach them this skill or set up a routine or a system that's going to help them? And that's a lot of visuals, a lot of checklists, and a lot of planning, not in the moment, but ahead of time. And then the next piece is, I think, what is it that they're valuing? I think that some parents get frustrated with their children that they should want to get A's in class. They should want to hang out with the family more. They should want to be organized. But is that actually what they value? Is that their goal? So it's kind of talking to them about what is it that they value more? Do they value the grade, or do they value someone acknowledging their effort more? And we sometimes get stuck in that and we get really frustrated. But as adults, what we value is not necessarily what the child is valuing. And that's where the children will get stuck, right? Because we value something, and for them, I'm actually valuing something else. But you can use that as a motivator to get them to work and to do their schoolwork. But it's really understanding what's getting in the way of them getting their work done and reaching goals. Is it their goal or is it your goal? So really having those conversations is important. Anything you want to add to that, Sue?
No, I think you put it right on. I mean, if it's not of interest to them, then you're not going to get the buy-in, right?
No.
And I mean, it's about the value, yes, but I mean, they have to have some interest, right? Like it has to be interesting to them. I mean, even if it's doing homework, how can we make it a little bit entertaining, right? So you may have to sort of change it up. Think about the delivery model. How can we sort of make it in a way that sort of grabs them a little bit? Same with with friends, like where is that happening? Maybe going into one location doesn't really do it, but maybe playing with friends in another location because there's something of interest, or they have something they're more familiar with, or they have something in common with those other children, right? So looking at the interest is also kind of matched with what they value, right? And changing it up a little bit as well.
And sometimes what you can use is, if I value my friends or my extracurricular activity, that is my motivator to get my homework done, right? Let's just say that we figured all this out, we figured out where they're struggling, and when I get my homework done, then I can go meet my friends at the park. When I do my math homework, then I can apply for that job at Tim Hortons because I need to know math to work at Tim Hortons, right? So what are they valuing? And that could be the carrot that we are looking at, because going to math class, but getting a job at Tim Hortons, let's make that connection, right? So what are
It
they
all
valuing?
depends. Yeah, it all depends what it is, what you want the outcome to be, right? And what do you use to try and help them get there, right? So again, understanding what those long-term goals are, again, thinking like everything that we've already talked about, right? And knowing what they value, getting that hook, right? Like we talked about, getting that hook and, what do we need to do, right, in order to get there? I think this is really important, not putting your own judgments on what their values are. I think parents are very quick to kind of, we often sort of jump the gun and put our perceptions on our children's lived experience. And, it's like, oh, why would you do that? Or why would you feel that way? Or why would you think that? We have to really kind of take the foot off the gas a little bit and really, get into sort of their lived experience and know what it is that they're bringing to the table for themselves, and how they want to get there, get their input, get their involvement, help them be part of the process. What steps do they feel they need to take? And, sort of sorting out some of the skills as well. Kids are actually really quite good at trying to figure out what some of the steps are and figuring out, what is it that you can't do right now and what is it you'd like to be doing that you can't do? And how do we get there, right? And figuring what is that pathway? What are those little steps that you feel comfortable taking to try and get to that bigger goal? Because we can't make that big leap all the time. It's too awkward, it's too uncomfortable, and that's when kids get scared and the anxiety takes over, and then we just stop and say, forget it, this is too difficult, I can't do it. Right? So we've got to dial it back, make those little steps, and then we'll gradually get there. But we want them to be part of that process. We got to have that buy-in, and again, part of that interest. What is it that's going to hook them in?
Oh.
Who are their supports? That's another big piece.
So what are their distraction triggers? Like I said, there's my best friend sitting beside me. The TV is on in the next room, and I'm listening to what's going on. What are those distraction triggers for them? Do they know what they are? Can you help them with that? Can they visualize finishing the task? And what is the first step? Some children don't know what the first step is. So doing a little bit of that detective thinking, sitting down with them and helping them work through that, not jumping in and giving them all the answers, but how would we get to this goal? How do we make this happen? Even with a homework being an issue, when I'm feeling, overwhelmed, what would help? Having a cleared off space, starting with this one question at a time, kind of breaking it down. But do they have those answers? Do they know what steps are needed, or is it completely oblivious to them? And some children really don't understand how to do certain things, so we have to have those conversations. Don't get distracted by feelings of disappointment, and that does sometimes happen. Children really want to do well, but when they struggle, when they have a hard time asking for help, or when they ask for help, they feel shamed or they feel stupid, or somebody's like, why would you ask that question? Then, it's really tough for them to keep going, right? So how do they think positive? How can they shift their mindset, and do they have the supports around them when they do get stuck that they can ask for help, even if it's the fifth or sixth time, because they're really struggling, and maybe we need to write this down, maybe we need to write all the sequence down, and when those negative thoughts come in or we feel that emotion, what are we doing with that emotion when we're feeling frustrated or disappointment? Can I take a 5-minute break instead of getting frustrated, throwing it all away and saying, forget it, and then the whole evening is kind of ruined, right? But acknowledging the struggle and that emotion comes up, and what can we do with that emotion?
Yeah, this is very, very important part for parents to take their foot off the gas pedal, right? And not get hooked into that negativity with their kids and getting into all of that. Well, why would you say that? Why would you do that? And getting hooked into the negative thinking, right? Use some different language, help me understand, I'm not sure what's going on. Like, help me figure out what's going on, and ask them the question, how can I help you, right? Rather than just sort of pushing, ask them, what they think would be the best way for you to help them. And again, they may have some answers that maybe you hadn't really thought of. And being that positive role model is very important. Because if you get hooked into that negativity, then that's what they're going to see and that's what they're going to become. And they're going to respond to that rather than the positivity.
Right. And the comment that's there that they're doing online school and everything distracts them right now, absolutely, it's boring, right? I mean, we're very social beings. So to sit there in front of a screen for the whole day, even if you have breaks,
Sure.
even if they make you get up and do jumping jacks, that's not how children are supposed to be interacting. You know, they should be going to school and playing outside and hanging out with each other. So to sit there and watch a screen, I can't imagine what that would be like to do that all day, right? So what are those things they can do to help in the moment? Sometimes it's like little fidget toys. It's sitting on one of those exercise balls so they can bounce on that, and that helps them focus. I've seen people like that are putting their kids on bikes actually and somehow keeping it sedentary, and they can move, and that helps them because it's not normal to sit in front of a screen
It's
for that
not.
many
Absolutely.
hours.
Not even for adults. I mean, I'm sitting here doing this in front of a window and I see a squirrel run by and it's in my visionary field. And it's an automatic distraction, even though I'm an adult.
Yeah,
It's just a normal behavioral, human response.
yeah,
So to try and force your children to, say, well, you can't look out the window or you can't do this. You need to be looking at the screen. It's not about the can'ts and don't and do something, but help them to try and find another way to deal with the distraction. Like Michelle was saying, some of those other alternatives to say, yeah, we recognize the distraction is there and you're going to have them. And it's okay. Maybe sometimes you do like turn your head and you look out the screen, but you come back. And maybe I'm bouncing on the ball or whatever it is, or I have a fidget toy, as long as I'm trying to come back to the screen. Maybe I need to turn my head away every now and again to give my eyes a break.
yeah. And maybe they
Right?
can't in the same room, and maybe virtual school is not for them. And that when you
It may
have
not.
to send them to school, that this isn't a conversation that you do have with them. And again, everybody's got their own story, but if it's not working, let's sit down and have a conversation to say what's going to be helpful. How can we make this work? I'm noticing that when you two are together, it doesn't seem to be working. So how do we separate you guys and then we can come together to go outside and play and get some steam, get that energy out, right?
I'm smiling, Michelle, because you had the ghost dog come in the room.
Hi, it's the dog. No,
I
in
just
front of
figured
the
it was a
door.
distraction and everybody's thinking the ghost just walked in the
I
room.
know, and I've
So
got that blue light coming in from the window, so it looks a little creepy, doesn't it?
I thought I'd address it.
Yes. Right. And so I think this really leads into what is going to help them, and taking those breaks are really important, right? Um, so the other thing is getting clear direction. Listening skills can lead to missed details, right? If they are not organized, if they have a hard time focusing, if they are looking at like it's so boring and then it's like, oh, I see something outside or I've got something else in my head, then they've missed what has to happen. And if children don't know how to ask for help or to clarify, then they end up sitting there for half the day, and at the end of the day, you're like, so what was the instruction? I don't know. So you sat there the whole time and you didn't ask and you didn't clarify. And then we get frustrated, but then we need to create a plan. So the next time this happens, what do you think you should do? What are some ideas? And get those ideas from them. Because as soon as you start telling them all the time, do this, do that, if it's your job to man them all the time, it's not working, right? There has to be a plan, especially
I
with who
just want
you.
to address the comments about, the kids are bouncing off of each other and whatnot. I think it's also an opportunity for you to have a conversation with whoever's doing the instruction virtually and just find out, like, can they build in some different breaks or like do they get breaks at the same time? I feel like I'm trying to do all that. The teacher says I'd like to tell the school do it. Well, it can't all be done. I mean, sometimes there's just some limitations. So, do you just talk with the teacher and say, you know what, we just need to build in, some 5-minute breaks here and there where I need to take both of them and we need to have a 5-minute break away from the screen. And, they both walk away and, we go and we run our hands underwater or we have a little snack and then we do some stretching or whatever and then we come back and then we refocus. Um, but, bring your solutions to the teacher.
Yeah. And sure,
Absolutely being able to vent
sometimes it is
here for sure.
frustrating, right? We don't know what to do. Are feeling frustrated, and maybe you do need to create a plan, and you may need a team around you.
Yeah.
Maybe your child needs to stay home for whatever reason, but this is not working. So what are the alternatives? How can we do things differently? But if we just complain, then we're just saying it's not working, and we're expecting the teacher to figure this out. So it's us coming up with a plan, talking to your child
Yeah.
about it, and then going to the teacher and saying, here are some ideas. Will this
Yes.
work for you? How can we make this work together?
Yeah. Like I said, bring some ideas forward, right?
So these are just some ideas with avoiding distraction, especially when they're working. So get organized. What is it that they need to do? Silence alerts and keep open internet tabs to a minimum. I mean, that's really tough. I know even for myself, if I'm trying to get some work done and it keeps on popping up that I've got an email or somebody on Facebook said something and then I'm looking at that and I'm clicking on that and I'm an adult, right? So think about your children. What things are chiming off? Maybe even your phone is going off beside them and they're like, what's that? What's that? What's going on? And they're peeking over. Um, break big projects into small pieces. Do they know how to do that? Or they just look at all their homework and get overwhelmed? Music and headphones might cut down on the noise. They have those, you could do classical music, you could do nature sounds, you could do spa music. Sometimes music might be a little too distracting depending on what it is. Maybe they're going to be dancing in their seats instead of listening, but depending on what's going on, those noise canceling things might be helpful. Find the best environment. So again, if it's not good to be beside your brother or sister, how do we break this up? How do we find a space that works? Some children need the parent nearby. Another child needs to be a little bit in a more quiet area, maybe having more breaks, but then they can get some more work done. And making sure your area is clean and organized, and rewarding yourself. So that child should be rewarded for their work, and that reward can be some time outside, a book with you, maybe a little bit of screen time. I guess if they're on the screen, that wouldn't be helpful,
Doesn't
but
have to be
taking a
expensive.
break from
Doesn't
homework
have
or
to be
whatever.
expensive big things.
Yeah. And the break could be the reward in itself. Or when you're done your homework, then we can all sit down and watch a movie together, or then we're going to go to the park, right? So when you do what you need to do, then you get what you want. So this is a little small, but there's the link there on the side for this. So take time to teach specific skills. Okay, so like we were saying earlier, not every child knows how to break things down. Do they know how to study? Do they know what steps go in what order? Have we actually asked them those questions? Use a daily agenda. So paper is really important, even for yourself. If you're finding organization is tough, having something just pop up on your phone, then it goes away. So to be able to see that and break down what needs to get done, how much time do I need, and can I do a little bit each day? Especially if I want to go to my baseball game on Saturday, or I want to see my friends after school on Thursday, that might be their motivator to say, I need to do some more time on this project so I can get out with my friends on the Thursday. Use graphic organizers. Make to-do lists before starting the work. Use an end-of-day reminder sheet. Oh my goodness, this is so small.
I know, I'm thinking I can't read it.
Um,
I'm
highlight
gonna
positive.
here.
Great.
I'll
And
help
we're
you out a little bit on
they're
this one.
taping this, and my face is like right up to the camera.
I know. I can't read this, Michelle.
Yeah.
And
It's good
there.
for
How about we make it full screen for a
PowerPoint. It's
second?
pretty big. There
Oh,
we
look at
go.
that.
Perfect. That's much
That is
better.
much better. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
I
And so,
like writing out the SMART goals, right?
mm, yeah.
Showing models of completed assignments. I think giving them that praise of things that they have completed too, right?
Yeah.
Having individual schedules, right? So especially if you have more than one child, making sure that you have things listed, right? In terms of what are the goals for each individual child, the things that they're working on, because it doesn't need to be the same for each child, right?
Yes.
And using technology and apps for planning, there's lots of really good tools that can be very helpful for kids today.
Mhm.
So these are just some tools that you can use to sort of, put in place to help you, be a little bit more successful with your planning with your goals.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that's all of
And you don't have to use all of these ideas, but suggest them to your children. Sit down and have a plan. This isn't working. What can we do to make this better? What will help you? Which one of these ideas do you think would help? Okay. And I mean, take a look at this. This is pretty amazing, right? You've got a lot of post-it notes and a lot of scheduling and visuals all over the place. But this is necessary for some families and for some children, right?
This reminds me, I mean, I had years with a big, huge calendar on my wall with my kids, and we had post-it notes, and everybody had a different colored marker, and everybody put all their schedules on, and everybody knew where we were going, and when we had appointments, and what they had to get done, and when homework assignments were due, and when mom and dad had appointments, and it saved a lot of arguments.
Yes, yeah. So again, this is a lot of work.
It
However,
is a lot of work.
once you get the prep done, then it's done, and it's really helping your children.
The kids really take some ownership in this, right? So I mean, when each of them sort of has their own sort of, color or their line or whatever, they start to kind of get some buy-in here, and they start taking that ownership of their own things, right? And kids like to do that. They like to sort of be part of this. This is them being part of the family and contributing, right?
Yes. So we've
Homework is a big, big battle, right? So we need to think about where is that homework space. And I think particularly right now, this is a really big issue because we're doing the virtual stuff. So it's not just homework, it's the actual school day. So where is it happening? And what is the space like, right? I mean, is the TV nearby? Is the space cluttered? Are we trying to do this and connect while we're, sitting at a counter nearby where the kitchen is and the fridge is right there? And it's like, I'm just wondering what snack is in there that I can go and nibble on. And, is it noisy? Do we have the cat and the dog running around? Um, you know, are things too far away for your child to check in, right? So, maybe they're, too far away maybe from where you are, so I can't keep track of what's going on and making sure that they're doing okay. Are there just too many distractions as a whole? People coming and going, doors opening and closing, noise in the background, neighbors cutting grass, people doing stuff in their yards. There can be all kinds of major distractions, especially with the virtual learning. But homework time as well, if your kids are doing daytime stuff, going to school but coming home and doing stuff. There can be also lots of distractions in the evenings as well. So thinking about that space and where can we have a predefined space and what does that look like, and having the kids again be part of what kind of a space would they like to have. to do their homework in, to do their virtual learning in, where they can maybe have some of those, maybe they can have a little calm down jar sitting on their space that they can, shake up and, watch it fall every now and again so that they can kind of use that as a little bit of a distraction. Do you
I
have one
actually
here?
have one right here. There we go.
So these are fantastic little tools that,
Yeah.
take nothing to make. And, they could just have something like that sitting on their desk. And it's just enough to give them a break from what they're doing, give their eyes a rest from the screen, gives their hands something to sort of keep their hands busy for a few minutes. There's lots of ideas, lots of suggestions.
Remember
Uh,
this dude? Remember this
oh, I love that. That is my
dude?
friend. I
So
love
this is
that.
it's a weighted lizard. It's actually it feels nice to put on your lap.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's beautiful.
feel a little grounded. Something like that might be helpful as well for your kids. So I got this at Scholar's Choice, and but it's just like a weighted blanket idea, and that can be helpful for the children as well, depending on what their needs are. But it's just trying different things out and seeing
Yeah,
what helpful
absolutely.
for them.
Maybe your kids want like a little, blanket or something that they can have that, this time of year when it's starting to get cooler that, they wrap around their shoulders, or, if they're sitting in their chair and they put their feet on a little bouncy ball or something so they
Yeah,
can bounce their feet while they're, sort of fidgeting while they're working on their homework or while they're doing their online
silly
stuff.
putty, Play-Doh. I mean, you can
Yeah,
make that stuff at home, and it just
all
keeps
those kinds
their
of things.
hands busy. Yeah, so your one of your kids has a mini one of those. Yeah, I picked this up for something that I was doing, and I really liked it. I ended up buying one, and my
I'm
son
gonna
really
steal it one day.
yeah.
I am
Yeah,
gonna steal it one day.
I know.
It's
I
become
know
my best buddy.
you're holding it like a baby. It's kind
I
of like
know I did. I fell in love with it. But do think about what some of those big distractions are, and some of the big ones are noisy spaces. Places like kitchen spaces are probably a real distraction because there's a lot of dishes clanging, fridges opening and closing, and TVs and social medias or video consoles, things like that.
yeah. And some children are better at tuning that out. Others have a hard time, so they may need those noise canceling headphones.
Yes.
You just have to ask them and say, I'm feeling stuck. I feel like we're having a hard time. What would be helpful? This is what
Yes.
I'm noticing. You had a really good Tuesday. What made Tuesday a good day? And the other piece too is why are they struggling? And sometimes we just assume that they're being difficult or they just don't want to do it. You were able to do it yesterday. Why can't you do it today? But every day kind of ebbs and flows. Our emotions ebb and flow. So, I might have a test coming up and then I had this happening and this happening. There's so much going on right now that my anxiety is higher. I'm feeling overwhelmed. But last week, things were a little calmer. So this week, I'm having a harder time. Maybe they're acting out so they can avoid, right? If I tear things up, if I kick my sister while she's doing her homework or I'm doing my homework, then my mom gets involved, then we get sent to our rooms, and I don't have to do my homework, right? It's like let's see how we can get out of this. How can we avoid doing this? Maybe they have difficulty with the work or they have low tolerance to frustration. Some children can't even tie their shoelaces without freaking out and it really upsets them. So if you have that child that's easily frustrated, we have to work a little bit harder at helping them with their emotional regulation, learning what do you do with those big emotions. And that doesn't happen in the moment. Like Sue was saying, we have separate courses for that. Well, we will be doing another webinar here actually on emotions. Um, and that's that feeling of overwhelmed and then just having poor organizational skills. So from this workshop, hopefully you'll be able to have more discussions with your children.
And having a space for things, I think, is really important, right?
Yeah.
So if I have to be sitting down to do my homework and I can't find a crayon or I can't find my pencils, You know, something's over here on another table and my crayons are upstairs and my book is downstairs. So having a place for things, so making that, again, a predefined spot for things so that we know where things are kept, maybe having little containers that maybe have labels on them, having things marked so we know that this is where the erasers are and this is where something else goes and this is my little um, case and this is where I keep my stickers. You know, having spots for things and keeping them in a space and having a spot where they can keep that or a little container or a little box where they can put all of those kinds of things or their crafts or their toys, bins, whatever it may be. If you have those things sort of organized into a space, again, if you're trying to get kids to put things away and they don't have a predefined space to put them in, they're just going to end up sort of strewn everywhere, right? So we have to kind of help them to sort of have a place that's predetermined. And then we have to model that with them and walk it through. So we want to do it with them. We want to show them. So I'm going to do this with you. We're going to show you this is what I want. I want to show you where it goes, where it belongs. And then you're going to do it on your own. I'm going to watch you. You've got this. And then you're on your own. You can do it, right? So I'm going to model that behavior with them, right? Not just expect them to be able to do it on their own.
Right. And the question about the homework is chaotic looking. Should I rewrite it without all the pictures and colors? That's a question for your child because maybe for you it's chaotic looking. Maybe for the child it's okay. So ask them what would be helpful. Maybe it's circling or underlining the important things or highlighting things instead of rewriting everything. Asking the teacher, is there any way that you can just send this without the pictures? You know, but ask the child first because again, if you're just assuming this is what it is and the child is fine with it, have those conversations to say what really would be helpful. How can I support you? You know, that's the important piece is making sure that the child is on board as well.
Yeah, and I think the discussion with the teacher is an important one, as Michelle mentioned, because you don't want the teacher to be grading your work. You
Mm-hmm.
want them to be grading your child's work. And you know, if you're rewriting something, you don't want to have the impression that that's coming from your child, and then there's a misperception that your child's skill level is different than what it actually may be. So having that discussion with them and saying that my child is struggling or I'm noticing that my child is struggling, and then they may have some tips or suggestions for you about maybe how you can help them to be able to get there. But if it's not visible to them, then that's a whole different kettle of fish if they can't actually see what the challenges are.
And just some suggestions, take 10. Take 2 minutes to put loose papers in proper folders, 8 minutes to reread notes, and 10 minutes these 10 minutes will save you hours of searching and studying. So again, sitting down and doing some of this organizational stuff when I come home, when I sit down, when I start my virtual school, whatever it is, what's going to be helpful? Here are some suggestions. And then what can I do to support you in this? Okay. Maybe it's working in 30-minute blocks. Again, having conversations with
Than
the
that even.
Yep.
If you have a child that has ADHD that really struggles, you know, with even concentrating for 10 minutes or 5 minutes at a time, doing homework for 30 minutes may not be possible. It may be that, you know what, you're doing one question at a time and you're doing one math question and then they get to maybe, you know, play something else. And then they do another math question and then they get to do something else. And then they do another math question and then they get to do something else. But you're gradually sort of plugging away at getting through the math questions. You have to sort of match this sort of time blocks to what your child's needs are, right? In terms of where they're at developmentally. But it's taking it in chunks is basically what we're trying to get at here is blocking it into small, workable, manageable pieces rather than that, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to do this. And if homework takes 3 hours, then we're going to take 3 hours. We want you to stop with that, right? If it's taking 3 hours, then nobody's getting anything done.
And,
it's just a bunch of frustration.
Get stuck, right? They get stuck. They don't know how to ask for help. So do the easy stuff first. Or the other way around. Some people want to get the stuff that they don't want to do out of the way, and then I have something to look forward to. I hate history, but I really love math, and I'll get this done and over with, and then I'll look forward to doing my math. So routines will help get things organized. Having routines, expectations, routines create some stability. Children like to know what to expect. So this is a great thing I found online where there's actually that time. How much time does everything take? Because a disorganized child has no time management. So we have to think about how much time does it take to get ready in the morning, and they need an hour and a half, but we let them sleep in, and then they have half an hour, and then they're screaming and yelling, and everybody's sweating by the time they get out of the door. So how much time does each thing take? It takes them half an hour to use the bathroom and brush their teeth. It takes them another half an hour to get dressed and make their bed, and then everything else is like thrown out the window, and you're dropping off, Subway or McDonald's to them because we haven't had time for lunch, right? And maybe making lunch and doing all that stuff needs to be done the day before, right? So we have to kind of set that up, and routines will help to build independence and get your kids organized. Okay? So it teaches children healthy habits and good organizational skills, and having that predictable, organized home environment makes them feel safe and secure. And then also we can build in spending more time together, things that they value. So when you get all this stuff done, then we have time for family time. Then we have time for extracurriculars. But we have to get organized because we always run out of time because we're doing homework until 9:30 at night because it's such a fight, right? So I think with children, we want to pay attention to the good stuff. What are they doing well? We tend to ignore when they're well behaved, when they do what they're told because they should be doing that. But especially with a child that's struggling, you want to label what you like. I like that you started doing your homework right away and I didn't even have to ask you. Pay attention to the effort, not necessarily the end result. Maybe they are struggling and you do need to talk to the teacher because it's too much homework or they're really struggling in this math and I can't figure out this math. And we're fighting every night because they have math homework every night. So it's kind of getting ahead of behavior and really figuring out what the issues are. And validate the struggle instead of saying you're fine, don't worry about it. Grade 5 math is nothing. To them it is. To them they're really struggling. So if they feel heard and you match emotion with emotion and you validate their struggle, they're more likely to calm down and then they can do some problem solving. Okay? And making a plan is really important because we don't want to be fighting fires. So on a Saturday afternoon, we have to figure this out. We have to kind of see what's going to help and eventually they're going to get there. So then routines are about responsibility, about being part of the family as well. And they develop basic work skills and time management, right? So all these things are really important, teaching them to do these things. And like Sue said, I'll show you how to do it. We're going to do it together. I'm going to watch you how to do it, and then you're going to do it on your own. It gives them that self-esteem. It helps them with time management, understanding what the steps are in a certain sequence of steps, how you would clean something, how you would prepare for a test. All those things are important.
Just as routines are good for children, they are good for parents. So we want to make sure that regular and consistent routines also help you to feel like you're being more confident and in charge as a parent as well. So when you're not feeling like life is so sort of scattered and hectic, it helps you feel more organized. It lowers your stress level. It helps with your problem solving and abilities, and just being able to just feel a little bit more relaxed and enjoying your family life and your children and helping them to be able to resolve their issues and problems and being able to sort of experience their perception of their world, right? So we kind of have colored glasses when we're feeling very stressed as parents, and we don't see those things that we were just talking about, that, sort of being able to validate their experience and help to ask them those kinds of questions like, help me understand. We get caught in that negativity and we get caught in that trap. So, being able to view things more positively, if we take care of ourselves and we look after routines for ourselves, it keeps us in a good place to deal with all of that.
Yeah, and there's a comment here about the validation, that it really does help. After a blow up, you validate, and then it actually makes the child feel better about themselves, that someone is hearing me. Mistakes are okay, and it's just learning to get back up. But being a supportive parent helps them get back up, right? If they feel like they're screwing up all the time, they don't feel motivated to do things because I'm just going to screw it up anyway. And they really, really want to do well, but a lot of times they struggle with that.
We do have a workshop called How to Validate Your Child and Youth. And there is a book, and I think Louise can put up a link for you, called The Power of Validation. It's a great little book, and it's a good read, easy to get on Amazon. So she can put that link up for you to share. But we will be doing a workshop on, I'm not sure if it's on here or if we're doing it on our Zoom through the hospital, but you can check on our website. But we will be doing a How to Validate Your Child and Youth workshop as well.
Yes. Okay, and a routine is well planned, it's regular, and it's predictable. So eventually the children will become organized because we're setting them up for success, especially if this isn't something that they value, right? We really have to put those prompts in, and that when then kind of idea of when you get what you need done, what I want you to get done, then you get what you want. So we're teaching them time management, what should be coming first, what's the priority. Watching TV, playing video games, going outside does not happen if you're not ready for school, if your bed isn't made, if you haven't gotten ready for bed. So if we're allowing them to have that reward first, what are we teaching them about priorities and time management? So this is us sitting down with them on a Saturday afternoon to kind of get that worked out and get their input. What would be helpful? You really want them to give you some ideas as well. They'll have more buy-in than us just saying, this is what we're doing, this is how we're getting it done. And then your reward will be this, and it's not even something that's going to motivate them. So working with them together is really important.
And these are just some of our links to our community education website. This is where you can find some information about some of our upcoming courses, and of course contact Hamilton if you're looking for some information about referrals for services and some mental health links as well.
Yeah. So I hope that was helpful for everybody. Thank you for your comments. If there's anything else, you can just put it in the chat. And again, it's not easy, right? Some of our children need a lot more support. they've got more lagging skills and will need a lot more patience. But once you do that, you're going to really see them flourish and be more independent, and their self-esteem is going to boost as well.
And all of these ideas are just a starting ground for you to just sort of pick a few and start to play around with them a little bit and see where they go.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue and Michelle, and thank you to the participants for sharing all those comments and questions as well. All the links, which aren't really links showing up in that box there, just the actual URL, you'll get the link to the resource page, which is the link that's on the big thank you screen there. And not all the content is there yet, so give us a day or so and we'll get the recording link up there, as well as the links to all the resources, and especially other sessions that Sue Michelle or other Your Space partners have presented. We do have one specifically on validation previously, and more coming up, because it is a really, really helpful and valuable approach for, it gets you through the rough spots. It really does. So we'll make sure you have all those, as well as the link to our feedback survey. We really love when you're able to take a couple minutes and let us know what you liked, what other suggestions you might have, and you'll have an opportunity to submit that and have your data be part of a research study, and we appreciate that too. Thank you, everyone. If there's any other follow-up questions or anything like that, you can send us an email at engage@linwoodcharlton.ca, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.